Okay, thanks everybody and welcome. So we are on Facebook Live now and we're on Zoom. So everybody welcome. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. We have 4 travel experts with us today from Madagascar who specialize in Madagascar. And we are so excited to share with you different areas of Madagascar you can visit and what you can do there. And I know right now we can't all travel, which is, not great, but I personally am very excited to see that at least Nosy Bay is open in Madagascar, and we'll be able to hopefully all get back to there soon. So I just wanted to introduce your hosts really quickly. I'm Lynn. I am the co-founder and digital communications manager for the Lemur Conservation Network. And we have Laura here who is doing tech support for Zoom. And Laura, do you want to talk a little bit about how people should use the chat and everything?
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining. If you're joining us from Zoom, you have a couple ways to communicate with us. One is the chat that goes directly to the panelists. So if you have any tech questions, feel free to send a chat to me and I will respond. If you have any questions for our panelists throughout the presentation, you can use the Q&A button. You might need to hit a more on the bottom to get to the Q&A, but it should be there. And if you see someone else has asked a question that you are interested in, you can hit the little thumbs up button next to the question and that will upvote it to the top of the list of questions. We'll be doing questions at the end. So if you have a particular person you'd like to ask the question to, you can put their name in your question as well. If you're joining us from Facebook, feel free to comment on the Facebook Live post, and I will bring those over into Zoom so we don't miss those as well. But thanks for being here.
Thanks, Laura. And we also have our Madagascar manager, Sehen, here. Sehen, do you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Sehen, Madagascar manager of Lemur Conservation Network. I'm so happy to have your guest speaker about the travel in Madagascar. As we said, Lynn, we cannot travel to Madagascar, but we hopefully we will go through this all pandemic crisis, and we are so grateful today because we have opportunities to go in different areas thanks to our panelists today. So thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Yes. And if anyone has any questions in Malagasy, they can write those in the chat too, so Sehen can help. So I just want to let you all know the plan for today. So first, I'm just going to introduce our travel experts, and then we will start with Brett and talk about the southeastern district of Dauphin. And then we'll go and speak with Jonah about eastern rainforests, and then Tanjona about the northeastern rainforests of Masoala, and then Laurenne from Pioneer Expeditions is going to talk about the southwest circuit of Ranomafana, Isalo, and Ifaty. And then at the end, I'll just talk really quickly about a couple different conservation projects you can visit on your trip. And then we'll take some questions. So as Laura said, if you have questions throughout, feel free to ask them in the chat or the Q&A. And yeah, so let's get started. So Brett, do you want to introduce yourself first? You're on mute. Brett, you have to unmute yourself first.
Sorry. Hi, I'm unmuted now. Hello, everyone. I'm Brett. I have a company in Madagascar called Dadamanga. I'm going to share my screen because I've got a little presentation which will go through all of this for you. I have got...
Okay, so I'll stop sharing and then...
Thank you.
You can.
Thank you. Here we go. Okay, so I'm in the southeast of Madagascar, in the Anus region. The capital is Dauphin. I have a company called Dadamanga. I'm a tour operator. We deal with English-speaking clients. I'm going to go fast because I've got 10 minutes and my presentation's 20. Okay, so I'm going to go at warp speed. I run the regional tourism office in Fort Dauphin. I'm on the board of the National Tourism Office. I'm an Australian. I've been here 25 years. Because the reason why I've got my presentation so long is because I've got 5 sites to talk about, and some of them are more interesting to tourism at the moment than others. Right in town, before I do that, I just want to say something. You know, Madagascar, most of the forest is gone. Sad truth. To see lemurs in their natural state is difficult. There are very few lowland parks where you can see wild lemurs. So what's happened is the evolution is that hotels have opened private reserves. It's, look, not the opinion of anyone else except myself, but I find that these private reserves have a negative impact on conservation, which Lynne is going to talk about at the end when she has some suggestions for conservation projects to visit. So I'd like to encourage tourists to always visit wild animals in their natural state. So the places I'm going to talk about today are Nahantpuna, Andranara Park, St. Luce, Tsitungambarik, Barenti Reserve, and Beampingarats. First of all, let's just jump straight into it. Nahantpuna Reserve is about 7 kilometers outside Fort Dauphin. It's accessible by a normal taxi. It's an old colonial plantation, which was taken over by a hotelier in Fort Dauphin. And they have some introduced animals there. It's a beautiful place to visit. The animals are semi-captive. I mean, they're not in cages. They live in the forest around the reserve, but they're fed. But, you know, it's a place to get a guaranteed fix, up close lemur experience with, for example, Lemur Catha, the ring-tailed lemur, and Veros shifaka, which are extraordinary animals to see really up close in this incredible environment. These animals, tourists aren't allowed to feed them anymore, which is a great thing. The park has other attractions. There's a canoe ride that you can do and all sorts of things. But like I said, 7 kilometers out of town in a normal taxi. It's about 12 euros to get in, and it's a lovely day out. You can take a picnic, sit on the lawn. It's a beautiful place to go. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to push through this. Andranara Park is also about 7 kilometers outside Fort Dauphin. It's a more exciting sort of tourism type place. It's for people who want to hike. It's got mountains that you can climb. There's a lovely little restaurant there. Incredible views over the region, the lakes all around Fort Dauphin. And again, the same deal. They have some lemurs there that are introduced and fed by the reserve. They have exciting sort of adventure tourism like paintball and mountain climbing at Andranara Park. Pushing ahead, St. Luce and Batu Atsinanana, new protected area. I'm just going to jump back if I can. No, yes. And Batu Atsinanana NPA. NPA, new protected area, or in French, Nouveau Air Protégé. A lot of these new protected areas have been set up all over Madagascar, and a lot of them are aiming for tourism to support them. So the Batu Atsinanana new protected area includes St. Luce. St. Luce has a lot of fragmented forests, but it has the very last absolute coastal forest in the whole southeast of Madagascar. It's an extraordinary place to visit with really, really abundant wildlife. I'm going to spend more time on this site than anywhere else. It's about a 3-hour drive north of Fort Dauphin. There are various accommodation options for tourists in St. Luce, from simple little bungalows on the beach to the luxurious Manafiafi Lodge, all of which I might add are currently closed, but we have fingers crossed that that's going to change. Or camping there's an NGO called Seed Madagascar that works there in St. Luce, and they allow camping at their site. You can also camp over here at the place that I'm showing you now at St. Luce Reserve. St. Luce Reserve has been sold. So this forest is partly private and partly government owned. I used to own a piece of this, which has just recently been sold. But there's about 600 hectares of fragments of forest where you can go and see all sorts of incredible lemurs up really close. Stunning beaches, forest right down to the beach. rivers to explore in canoes, and the most wonderful and flamboyant of our lemurs in the southeast of Madagascar is Lemur colaris, the collared brown lemur. These are gregarious, friendly, funny, lovely animals that come out early in the morning and again in the afternoon. They sleep in the middle of the day and they sleep at night. So they're cathemeral. These animals live in quite large groups. This is a female. You can tell the males from the females. The males are more, have a bigger collar and are darker on the front. There's other differences. This is a little female. These animals are absolutely friendly and gregarious. In St. Luce, the animals have been habituated. There have been NGOs working there for 20 years now. So with a primatologist called Matthew Banks, myself and him 20 years ago started the first lemur research in St. Luce. And we took the traps down out of the forest and stopped local people eating these animals. And now the animals wander through the village in safety. No one hurts them anymore and they don't flee, which is great because it means you can have a great experience with seeing them and they play around and hang around in the forests. The babies arrive in August, September, and they may just be the cutest animals ever on the face of the earth. There's lots of other wildlife in St. Luce, of course, such as a number of different types of boas, chameleons. And here we have, the night walks are the most attractive in St. Luce. So it's great if you're going to be a tourist in St. Luce to stay overnight and do a night walk. We have such an incredible abundance of woolly lemurs that on a 100-meter trail, you might see 100 animals. The woolly lemurs normally are found in pairs. They don't have such a strict season for giving birth as the Lemur colaris does. So you often find them carrying young. And if you're lucky in the day, you can see them. They nest quite low in the trees, about between 1 and 2 meters high. So sometimes you can see them in the day. We also have these fat-tailed dwarf lemurs. Help me, Chirogalius. These animals are jet-propelled rockets that jump through the trees. They're very easy to spot at night, really abundant. These animals go into what's called torpor, a type of hibernation in the winter. They store fat in their tails. As you can see, he's got a fat tail, this guy. And they get quite sluggish in the winter. In most places in Madagascar, however, in St. Luce, we see them all year round. We have, that's just some bungalows in St. Luce. There's lots of little places to say, I'm going to try and be fast. The woolly lemurs are incredibly, it would be very hard to say that they're beautiful, but they're intriguing animals. They never flee. They sit quietly while you visit them and look at them, and they just look down at you. They're really easy to spot, and lots of them. Microcebus, the mouse lemurs, have been separated into so many species now all over Madagascar, and we have our own. And this guy, sorry about the spelling mistake, it says Microcebus tans. It's Microcebus tanus. There's an O missing. This is our own Antanusi Microcebus mouse lemur from just around the Fort Dauphin area. This is the fat-tailed dwarf lemur again. The Tanus, Microcebus tanus. And again, another baby lemur. The area around St. Luce is fantastic for tourism because not only are there beautiful beaches, lots of animals to see, but there are incredible natural sites like rivers lined with mangroves full of birds, ducks, wild ducks, all sorts of incredible animals there to spot, as well as our emblematic collared brown lemurs that are endemic just to the southeast corner of Madagascar. They hang around in quite large family groups. They're really, really friendly and lots of fun. I'm going to just push through these images. Too many. Lots of volunteers over the last 10 years we've had in St. Luce, and I just had to put in here because I think she's watching. This is our famous Sarah and our beautiful couple, Claire and Chris from Scotland. Hello, guys. Okay, now we're moving on to Tsitongambarika. Now, this is an enormous park further north of St. Luce, and it's part of a 300,000 hectare natural forest, partly national park and partly new protected area, but it's one forest. the national park is managed by Madagascar National Parks, obviously, and I've left that part out today. Today, I'm only going to talk about TGK, Tsitung Gambarika, which is managed by Asiten. Asiten is the birding organization, which is supported by BirdLife International. So there are 5 main areas in TGK which you can visit as a tourist, but the main one being Ampas, but I'm just going to keep going. There's a significant number of different animals that you can find there. Microcebus griseorufus, the grey rufous mouse lemur, the Tanusi mouse lemur, the Fleuret's sportive lemur, the southern woolly lemur, which is the one I was showing you a minute ago, the ii, the major Chirogalius, the collared brown lemur again, and the southern bamboo lemur. So this Tsitung Gambarika site is 58,597 hectares. And what's extraordinary about this project is all of those names, see under their commune concerné, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's a huge number of local communities involved in the conservation of this one forest, which is a really extraordinary and complex job for Asiten to be doing. They've set up some fantastic little tourism infrastructure inside the park, and the most accessible and the most organized for tourism is about 60 kilometers north of Fort Dauphin, about a 3-hour drive. Then you have to walk about 2 to 3 hours to get into the forest. As I was saying, lowland forests are gone. Much of the forest left in Madagascar is on mountains. So if you want to see wild animals in Madagascar, put your hiking boots on, strap yourself in and get ready for a bumpy ride. But really, really worth it. You land in a beautiful, in the mountains. I'm going to skip past that photo. This is their campsite. At their field station, it's like a research station, but it's open for tourism. So it's a simple place. They've got some camp guardians working there, simple wooden houses and eating space. They cook beautiful food, but very simple, no fridges, and solar power. I've already explained there's a number of different types of lemurs there, with even an opportunity to see ii, the southern woolly lemur, the collared brown, and I've never seen either of these two in the wild. I've never seen the southern bamboo lemur, and I've never seen this sportive lemur, so I'd actually really like to go there myself. You can see from this image, it's tents under thatched shelters. It's a really, really extraordinary adventure in a spectacular wilderness. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and really well worth a visit for anyone who comes to our region. Moving on to the very, very famous Barenti Reserve, which is set up by the Dauphin family when they established a sisal plantation back in the 1920s. They deforested a lot of the spiny forest around, but they protected this riverine forest, gallery forest on the edge of a river, and established it as Barenti. It was made famous mainly by Alison Jolly, may she rest in peace, one of the world's most famous primatologists who started her research there in the 60s and worked there until the end of her life. Alison trained lots of primatologists there in Barenti, and there's a lot of extraordinarily good positive things came out of Barenti. Like I said, if you can look in the bottom right of this image, you can see the sisal plantation, and then you can see the remaining gallery forest left on the edge of the river. That's the Mandrare. That river flows out to sea at Amboshari. The forest itself it's a spiny forest, surrounded by spiny forest. The gallery forest is much bigger trees, but surrounded by spiny forest there. And this is the home of the extraordinary shifaka that jump from tree to tree. Now, these trees that you can see in this photo are really spiky, but the shifaka jump huge distances and land on them without any trouble. It's extraordinary to see them. Barenti is a little bit of luxury compared to what I've been explaining to you previously. Nice, comfortable bungalows with air conditioning and a lovely restaurant. And some habituated animals that hang around the hotel and restaurant. So you have the ringtails, hybrid browns, some Vero shifaka, and it's an extraordinary place. I think I might be inside my 10 minutes. Lynne, are you timing me?
Yeah, we are at 9 or at 20 after, so.
Okay, I'm not doing too bad. Bayam Pingarats. This is the last site. I'm going to explain it fairly quickly. It's not really ready for tourism, but it's really worth me telling you about it. It's about 100 kilometers from Fort Dauphin. Why I'm telling you about it is because this is a new conservation project. It's 112,000 hectares. It's an extraordinarily important conservation project. This is in French, sorry, so I'm just going to translate it. About 100 kilometers north of Fort Dauphin. Extraordinary potential for ecotourism, and is being run by a local NGO. It's full of wildlife, lemurs, orchids, and all sorts of things. It's also one of those sites that's managed by multiple communities. So tourism to these sort of sites really assists local people rather than assisting hotel owners. Sorry to my hotel owner friends, but to support community-based tourism is, for me, the most important thing that a tourist coming to Madagascar can do. You can stay, if you want to go to this place, you can stay in the village of Ranomafana, not Ranomafana, which is going to be talked about later, but Ranomafana du Sud, which is a couple of hours drive from Fort Dauphin. That's the end of my little presentation. I'm sorry I talked so fast, but I know Lynne's recording this, and I'm happy to share my presentation with anyone if you want to just send me a message. Okay, happy World Lemur Day, and enjoy the rest of the presentation, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Brett. We have a good question actually on Facebook that maybe you have some insight into. Joe Eldred asks, with boas and predators, do most tourists hike on their own, or is it best to go with a guide?
In nearly every park in Madagascar, it's obligatory to take a local guide. Now, this is for very good reason. And mainly, it's an income generating thing. It's how these people earn their living. There are no poisonous snakes in Madagascar. And in fact, in St. Luce Reserve, where I showed you the boa, we give people interpretation and maps, and it's very well sign written, and people are allowed to walk around by themselves. But in nearly every park in Madagascar, you have to take a guide. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, awesome. So our next guest is Jonah from RamarTours Madagascar. Jonah, did you want to show your own presentation, or do you want me to do that? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm gonna share my own presentation. Okay.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So just let everybody know, like, a little bit about you, and then get started.
Excellent. Do you see it?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome on this special day. Of course, Madagascar Travel Show, but as well Lemurs Festival. And today I'm going to present a part of the eastern rainforest of Madagascar, in where the lemurs Indri, the biggest one, and the mouse lemurs habitat. Of course, I am Jonah Ramampionona, manager of the tour company called RamarTours Madagascar, and I am the chairman of the tour operator, a professional tour operator of Madagascar called Top Madagascar. Andasibe Mantadia, as just excuse me, as you can see on the map on the bottom of the presentation, you see that Andasibe is located about 100 kilometers out of Antananarivo on the east coast of Madagascar. And the Andasibe Mantadia, these are two reserves. So Andasibe is the special reserve, and Mantadia is the national park. Both belong of humid forest, and as I said, it's not that far from the capital. So the primary forest of Andasibe Mantadia contains a lot of nature part of that: lions, mouse, fern trees, and more than 100 orchid species blooming between September and January. And other common plants growing here, such as the pandanus, Ravnala, that is the palm trees, and bamboos as well, and some precious wood like palisander and ebonies as well. Also, this dense forest is the home of birds, reptiles, amphibians, and especially lemurs. That's our main topic of today. So just to remind you guys that all of the lemur species are endemic in Madagascar. They include the smallest primate in the world. For instance, Madame Berthe's mouse lemur that we are going to present as well today, which weighs 30 grams and range up to size of the Endri, which can weigh as much as 9 kilograms. So around Andasibe Mantadi as well, as you know that these places are the human resources for local peoples, such as where they collect water, wood, searching food, and that makes it a very dangerous nowadays because the forest size getting more and more smaller. Okay, today, as you can hear, that is the sound of the Indri. I will let you hear it again. So remember, the Indri considered as a sacred animal in Madagascar. So let's get started to know more about the Indri. So Indris are called Baba Kutu, literally the father of Kutu, and often in Madagascar, the little boy calls a Kutu. So the Indri or Baba Kutu are the largest living lemurs, with a head and about the length of about 64 to 72 centimeter, and a weight of between 6 to 9.5 kilogram. It has a black and white coat and maintains an upright posture when climbing or climbing. It is monogamous and lives in small family groups, moving through the canopy, and it's purely herbivorous, feeding mainly on leaves, but also seeds, fruits, and flowers. So that's the reason that the forest is very important for this lemur species called Indri. The groups are quite vocal, as you heard a few minutes ago, communicating with another groups by singing, roaring, and other vocalizations. Within a mile of the park, visitors can hear that popular call of the Indri very early in the morning until noon, and again in the late afternoon. So can you imagine when you will be living close by the forest? And that's basically the best place to observe the Indris, given that there are a couple of families habituated to humans. And remember that this is, how to say it lives in small groups and cannot survive in captivity. There are several legends trying to explain its origin, since it's considered a sacred animal in the whole Madagascar. So that's the reason why people it's forbidden to hunt the Indris. And nowadays it is endangered due to the deforestations. Let me reinforce it that due to the deforestation and agricultural activities next to the reserve. So we talked about the biggest lemurs, and allow me to introduce you the smallest lemurs called mouse lemurs. And recently, our professor from the primate researchers called Jonah found another species, and it called the Jonah's mouse lemur, or Jonai. So remember that this is as well the smallest known brain of any primate, and the Indri is the biggest known brain of any primate. So let's know about the mouse lemurs. So mouse lemurs are nocturnal lemurs of the genus Microcebus. Like a lemurs, mouse lemurs combine the smallest primates, the smallest species being
Breaking up a
is the
little bit.
Madagascar birds. However,
Okay.
hello, do you hear me?
Yeah, now,
Is okay?
yeah.
Okay. So I said that, however, the weight fluctuates in response to daily light duration. It was estimated that 24 mouse lemur species evolved from a common ancestor 10 million years ago. Can you imagine? And evolutions of mouse lemurs is an example of for adaptive radiation. Mouse lemurs also, how to say, it's like what I mean is eating everything, and their diets are diverse and includes insects, secretions as well, arthropods, small vertebrates, gums. So a lot of food that they are having, and also leaves and plants depending on the season. The mouse lemurs are everywhere, quite everywhere in Madagascar, but the one that we are talking here is like located in Andasibe, and their best place is in the rainforest of Andasibe. Since mouse lemurs are nocturnal, they might not have evolved to look differently, but had evolved various auditory and vocal systems. Mouse lemurs have the smallest non-brain, as I mentioned above, and because it weighs nearly 4 pounds or equivalents of 2 grams. Recently discovered, as I mentioned, the Jonah mouse lemur is a large-bodied and short-eared mouse lemur species from northeastern Madagascar. Because the time is limited, so I would like to remind several important points. So lemurs play a vital role in Madagascar as seed dispersers for many plants and are essential for maintaining healthy and diverse forests on the island. Fruits make up a large part of many lemurs' diets, and the animals will often ingest all seeds and then poop them out far from the parent tree, thus helping the plants spread. The local Malagasy people need to see that lemurs are more valuable alive than dead. Tourists will come to see lemurs in the wild, but much more work needs to be done to make it a viable economic alternative for local people and safe, affordable, and appealing destination for international tourists. So as my friend Jonah mentions, lemurs are the goose laying the golden eggs for Madagascar. And that's mentioned Jonah Ramampionona, the General Secretary of GERB, Madagascar. So thousands of families depend on lemurs because tourists will not come to see empty forest. And that's the reason that I emphasize today that we need to protect forests to protect lemurs, as lemurs are our capital for tourists. And today, of course, because of this health crisis, coronavirus, we hope that we will find solutions and we can come together to see and to save lemurs. So hereby myself at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to visit Madagascar or need some help of predictions or need as well information, feel free to contact RamarTours Madagascar and myself, of course, Jonah Ramampionona. Here is my phone and the WhatsApp number and the email address that you can see as well. So thank you very much for your time to hearing me, and I'm available to listen for your question. And I hope to see you to travel to Madagascar soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonah. That's really great. And just to let everybody know, all the panelists today, they're speaking about certain regions, but everybody specializes in all of Madagascar. So if you want to contact any of them to arrange your trip, no matter where you want to go, then I'm sure they can help you. And they can always answer questions and help out. So our next speaker is Tanjona, who's a guide from Asisten Travel. Tanjona, do you want me to share the presentation?
Yes, if you don't mind,
Yeah,
because that would be easier. Yes,
yeah.
thank you so much.
Just want to introduce yourself.
All right.
So Tanjona is going to be talking about Masoala National Park, which is in the northeast of Madagascar, and very beautiful. I actually have not been there, so it's exciting.
All right, so can I get started?
Yes, I'm just trying to figure out how to play this. Oh, here we are.
Take your time.
Okay, here we go.
All right, so hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. And happy Lemurs Day. I know it's earlier, but it's always good to say that. And I'm delighted to be with you for a great cause, which is the Lemur Festival. The subject of my talk is Masoala National Park.
Yes.
Yes, but first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Tanjona Raharijaona, but people call me Ta. I've been working in the field for 13 years, and I'm a very passionate tour guide. I like moving forward because I believe that there are still plenty left to learn about Mother Nature. And today I will represent Asisten Travel, a Madagascar tour operator and a 100% Malagasy Destination Management Company, or DMC, and inbound operator specialized in luxury and bespoke trips. So here is the summary of our presentation. I will give you the general information about Masoala Peninsula, then the type of lemur which can be found there, including the three flagship species, and finally the harmonization between human and nature. All right, so Masoala has the largest remaining area of virgin lowland rainforest in Madagascar, which lies in the northeast, as you can see on the map, and serves as sanctuary for some very interesting lemurs and bird species. The total area of the peninsula is around 400,000 hectares. The easiest way to get there is to fly either from Antananarivo, the capital city, or from Tuamasina to the main town of Masoala, and then take your speedboat to the western coast of the Masoala Peninsula to reach the village of Ambanizana, where you start your exploration. The name Masoala literally means the eye of the forest, but historically speaking, it has been dubbed God's will, or Mashallah, by Arab sailors around 800 AD in order to express their appreciation and thankfulness while first visiting this peninsula. And Masoala Peninsula is mainly dotted by two major national parks, of which the pristine tropical rainforest of Nusimanga Bay Island, covering an area of 520 hectares and was created as special reserve in 1965 and officially gazetted as national park in 2015. And the second one is the Masoala National Park itself, which occupies some 240,000 hectares of largely primary forest on the western side. And it was classified as integral natural reserve in 1927, before being declared as a national park in 1997. Mhm. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, this peninsula also includes three protected marine areas as well, which protect mangrove ecosystems, coral reefs, dolphins, and turtles. But first of them is Tampulu Marine Park, located on the peninsula's southwestern coast. The Cap Masoala Marine Park at the tip of the peninsula, and Tanjona Marine Park on the southwestern coast. These places are undeniably the leading destinations for nature lovers who wish to venture into the country's most important natural habitat in terms of biodiversity, and the annual rainfall exceeding 5,000 millimeters allows so many species to thrive. Next slide, please. And this is a hiker's paradise destination ranging from low to highland tropical rainforest. The peninsula is such a delight place for its impressive vegetation, which includes precious wood like rosewood and palisander, huge soaring canarium trees arising from flying buttress roots. Masoala is among the major drawcards for herpetologists as well, with this an array of amphibians and harmless reptiles. For birders, not Madagascar, sorry. Masoala is one of the rarest spots to seek out the spectacular helmet vanga and Berner's vanga, which are both confined to this evergreen tropical rainforest. But now I would like to talk a little bit about the lemurs. There are 11 species of lemurs there, but 7 of them are nocturnal and 4 the active species. But today I would focus more on 3 flagship species, which are the white-fronted brown lemur, the red-ruffed lemur, and the ii. Next, please. Okay, so as you can see on the picture, it's a beautiful lemur. To begin with, let's talk about this one called white-fronted brown lemur, belonging to the Lemuridae family. Next slide, please. So, this day-active tree-dwelling lemur is a medium-sized species with a body weight of 2 kilograms, and its total length is about 89 to 96 centimeters. This species is sexually dichromatic, and its defining characteristic are largely restricted to the head of the male, with a striking white face and black muzzle for the male. Females are sometimes difficult to distinguish from related species. This type of lemurs is believed to be ephemeral as well, which means that they are active both day and night throughout the year. Fecundity has been measured at least around less than 1 offspring a year. Next slide, please. And after learning about the white-fronted brown lemur, I would like to immerse you in another remarkable creature found at Masoala Park called Pharesia rubra, or commonly known as red-ruffed lemur. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this journal species also belongs to Lemuridae family and inhabits only the remaining primary forest of the Masoala Peninsula. The red-ruffed lemur is a large quadrupedal species with a total length of 100 up to 120 centimeters and a weight of 3.5 kilograms. It has a dominant coat color, as you can see, with a deep chestnut red which cover much of the dorsal body surface as well as the legs, throat, but it is difficult to confuse it with any other lemurs. What is more, its raucous vocalizations are unmistakable. This lemur species moves through tall canopies. Can you go back? Yes, thank you. Uh, they like leaping occasionally on the tall canopy, and it is the most frugivorous of Madagascar's primate, with as much as 90% of their diet consisting on fruits. However, flowers, nectars, and leaves make up the balance. Mhm. So, next slide, please. All right, so I hope I hope you will stay connected with us. And now I would like to share with you one of Madagascar's truly flagship species, and of course the most unusual and distinctive primate on Earth. It is in the family, in a single family, which contains just itself the Dauphin madagascariensis. Next slide, please. So, when the word looking eye was discovered, it was classified as squirrel-like rodent. Not until 1850 was the species widely accepted as a primate. It is by far the largest fully nocturnal living species and differs from the other lemurs in many anatomical behavioral specializations, including its distinctive dental formula, the continually growing incisor teeth, the large ears that are almost certainly used to locate insects larvae in decayed wood, and the thin skeletal middle fingers that is used to extract such prey. It is a medium-sized lemur with a total length of 77 centimeters and a body weight at about 2.6 kilogram. Its overall appearance is a dark grayish brown with a darkly colored tail, big orange eyes, short muzzle, and the nose is pink. It was once thought as one of the world's most endangered mammals, but now it has been shown to be much more widespread than previously believed. Half century ago, some experts thought it might even be extinct until a population was discovered in the Mahambu forest, sorry, in the eastern Madagascar around 1957. And Anaye were introduced, not Anaye, but I believe there are 6 of them were introduced into Nusimanga Bay in 1966 and have since thrived on Masoala Peninsula. Mhm. Dauphin robusta, that is the extinct species and known from a few sites in southwestern part of Madagascar. The body weight of that one is estimated approximately 13 kilogram, 4 to 5 times heavier than the living species. Mhm. Next slide, please. So now let's talk a little bit about harmonization between human and nature. You know, the Beti Misaraga people. Beti Misaraga, by the way, is the ethnic group lining the eastern coast of Madagascar from north to south. So for the Beti Misaraga people, they are afraid of some type of lemurs and believe that they have supernatural powers to bring bad karmas. There are several reasons for the lemurs to be taboo, like for example, the belief that they are the progenitors of the clan, the fear that their dreaded qualities will be transferred to babies, the fear that the spirit of the killed animal might revenge itself. Mhm. Do I still have time, by the way, Lynn?
Yeah. I mean, I think you only have a
Okay.
couple of slides left, so.
All right, great. So it took millions of years for the biodiversity to evolve. And it's really sad to hear that most, or should I say, all of the lemurs are threatened because of the loss of habitat, because of hunting and trapping, because of animal poaching, because of the human activities and too much pressure which accelerate for their extinction. So let's act together to protect them for a successful conservation and for a brighter future of the prosimians. Next slide, please. Oh, so great. This is the end of my presentation. But you know, Madagascar destination deserves a spot on your bucket list, and we are ready to share our passion. The whole team will be very happy to provide as many options as possible for a memorable trip. If you would be interested to visit our beautiful Lemur Island, so book now with confidence and travel tomorrow. Thank you for your attention, and you have if you have any comments or questions, I'll be very happy to hear them. Masoud.
Thank you so much. That's really awesome to learn more about the Massoala Peninsula and all of the lemurs there. So I am going to stop sharing, and then we have a couple questions that I see Brett and others are answering in the chat, which is great. So our next speaker is Laurenne Mansbridge from Pioneer Expeditions. Laurenne, do you want to get started, introduce yourself, and share your presentation? And you are muted, so.
Okay, I don't think I'm muted now. I'm just going to share my screen and then I will start my presentation.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be able to share some of the passion I have for this amazing country. A little bit about myself. I'm Laurenne and I'm director of Pioneer Expeditions, which is a UK-based tour company. And we offer some really different and imaginative adventures. And Madagascar is one of our main specializations. I've been fortunate enough to visit Madagascar regularly, and I spend much of my working days designing itineraries to meet client requirements, basically. Now, my aim today is really to give you some information about one of the most popular tourist routes, the Southern Circuit. With the size and logistics of Madagascar, it's very difficult to see the whole place. And lots of tourists want to see a number of different landscapes and flora and fauna. And so the Southern Circuit is a very great option. I would normally include like Andasibe in this, but obviously we've already heard about that as well, so that's great. For the tour, you would head by car down the RN7 road all the way to the coast in the southwest. Along the way, there's lots of beautiful scenery, some lovely towns, and plenty of opportunities for adventure, whether you're exploring some rivers or trekking or biking. But for the purpose of this talk, as it's quite short, I'm just going to focus on the main wildlife hotspots like on the way. So that leads us to Ranomafana National Park. This is one of the most visited and spectacular parks. It's a real treasure within Madagascar. It's named after the Malagasy word for hot water due to the local hot springs, and it became a national park in 1991. This park protects over 400 kilometers square of mountainous primary and secondary rainforests. It's subhumid and it offers a really rich and varied flora from orchids and ferns examples. The park is also home to 12 lemur species, 7 of which are diurnal, so active in the daytime. So you have a really good chance to sort of see them on your day treks through the park. I think for the possibility of seeing so many different lemur species in one location, this is possibly the best. Walking circuits, they tend to vary in length from about 4 to 8 hours. If you're limited on time, you can definitely experience Ranomafana on a short 1-day, 2-night tour. However, if you have longer, I would really recommend it, as it will allow you to take one of the longer treks and explore deeper into the park. And perhaps take a canoe trip down the Namarana River, which runs alongside the park. One of the unique lemur species you may be lucky enough to see is the Milne Edward sifaka, which I've pictured here. This is the second largest lemur species, and during the daytime, they tend to spend about 30% of their time foraging from treetop to treetop and jumping between them. This is definitely your sort of best chance of viewing them, because when they're not foraging, they're mostly sleeping up in the tops of trees. Another lemur you may get the chance to see is the black and white rough lemur. It's an agile and vocal member of the species. When you're exploring in the national park, as was mentioned earlier, you'll have a local guide. But in order to locate some of the different species in Ranomafana, there's a really great network of trackers, most of whom take advantage of the bush telegraph, also known as the mobile phone. But this sort of tracking system is really well developed in Ranomafana, more so than in other national parks. It means it's great for lemur spotting. Shown here is the red-fronted lemur. But as a downside, it means you sometimes have to share your lemur viewing with quite a few other tourists. That said, the vast majority of tourists are only able to visit for the morning. So if you can spend the whole day, then you may be able to get a much more personalised viewing. The picture here is of the golden bamboo lemur. The greater and golden bamboo lemurs exist within Ranomafana, the latter of which was only discovered in 1986. And it was a discovery that actually led to the formation of Ranomafana National Park. As well as the lemur species, there are over 115 birds found here, 30 of which are endemic, such as the rufous-headed ground roller. It is also home to over 60 reptile species and plenty of amphibians as well. So as we head further south, with road journeys in Madagascar not being the fastest, it's quite great to have another stop on your en route. And so this is why I'd recommend Anya Reserve. My recommendation is you stay in Ambalavao overnight and then enjoy the reserve really early the next morning. If you want to try something different, you can actually walk here along the road from Ambalavao. It gives you a really interesting perspective on Malagasy lives, because obviously walking is the most popular form of transport by far. Anya is a community-run reserve, and it sort of consists of a combination of forests, large granite rocks and cliffs. It's home to over 300 ring-tailed lemurs, and whilst these lemurs are 100% wild, they have become habituated to humans, so it's a really great place to sort of see them close up, watch them sunbathe or walk along the paths. A typical tour here is 2 to 3 hours, and along that you'll do some rock scrambling and some hiking. However, if you do have more time, you could easily spend longer here, and it would allow you to explore it in more depth. Next on the southern route is Isalo National Park. It's one of the country's most dramatic and stunning parks, with its sandstone canyons. It's a sort of Malagasy Colorado. This park was actually created in 1962, and it protects over 800 kilometers of land. It's sort of dominated by an epic sort of sandstone massif, which has been eroded over time by weather, and it's, the leftover pinnacles are sort of surrounded by dense forests and savanna-like grasslands. It is an amazing trekking area, and there are numerous trekking routes that you can explore. The longest one, if you're up for a challenge, is a 4-day trek, which takes you to the north of the park, and there's a couple of campsites within the national park that you can use. One of the most popular treks here, though, is called the Piscine Naturale trek. And this gives you a really good overview of the park and its impressive canyons and its inhabitants. And one of the highlights of the day trek is this natural pool, which is found at the bottom of the canyon. And it's perfect for like a refreshing dip. Now, whilst Isalo is famous for its scenery and trekking, it still has plenty of wildlife and includes the ring-tailed lemur and the Vera sifaka, which is pictured. as was mentioned earlier, when they're away from trees, safakas have a really unique way of getting around, a sort of sideways, like jumping, dancing maneuver. There are also 40 nocturnal lemur species here, half of which are endemic. And you may get a chance of seeing some of these, such as a mouse or a sportive lemur, when you overnight in the area. Isalo is also a must for any bird watchers. It's home to 81 bird species, and it's also the best place to spot the Benson's rock thrush, which is a highlight for any birder. So at the end of an active tour south, there's nothing better than relaxing at the coast, and Ifaty is a really perfect option. It's made up of a couple of laid-back coastal fishing villages, and it's maintained its charm, and it has accommodation. It focuses on like small bungalows set along the long beach. As well as relaxing on the beaches, as it's on the Mozambique Channel, it's also a great place to enjoy snorkeling and diving. The reef is offshore, so it has to be reached by boat, but there is plenty to see, including many shark species. An additional pull here is if you come in July and August, it's on the humpback whale migration route, so perfect for whale watching. I don't think any visit to Ifaty would be complete without a visit to the spiny forest. There are 3 pockets around Ifaty, and they're home to some unique vegetation and trees, which sort of take their bizarre shapes have been developed in order to survive sort of arid conditions. This is also a must for bird watchers and botanical enthusiasts. For birders, you can find 2 of the island's most threatened birds, the long-tailed ground roller and the sub-desert Massoud. And for botanists, the spiny forests are notable for having the highest percentage of indigenous plants on the island. Now, this is an island already famous for having a greater number of endemic plant species than anywhere else on Earth. So it is definitely a must. So Ifaty is the last stop on the Southwest Circuit. And if you're planning to say goodbye to Madagascar, then you tend to head back to the capital, Tana, by plane rather than retracing your route by car. But that said, there are numerous extensions and other areas that can be visited, some of which we've just heard about from my fellow speakers. So if you do have a bit more time, Madagascar has plenty more to offer. I'm going to thank you very much for listening to my short talk. I mean, to conclude, there are many unique countries around the world, but few are as unique as Madagascar. And I'm sure that once you have visited whatever location that you choose, it will leave a lasting impression with you and it will remain in your heart forever. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Laurenne. Yes, that's true. A lot of people, I think, go to Madagascar, and I mean, myself included, and then it just stays with you and you need to keep going back because it's so big and there's so many different landscapes and different things to see and do. So it's really memorable. Thank you all. So I'm gonna share my screen. I have a couple of tips on different places that you can go see conservation groups that are working in Madagascar. I mean, this isn't exhaustive. There's lots of things to places you can do this, but just give people an idea of some options. So I know it's always wonderful to go to national parks and to visit all the lemurs and see the birds and the wildlife and the beautiful scenery. But sometimes, you know, you want to learn about the different conservation work that's going on in Madagascar. And so there are a few places that you can just see things firsthand. The first one I wanted to talk about is where Jonah was mentioning, is in the Andasibe area. Massoud Forest is run by a Lemur Conservation Network member, Association Massoud. And so this is really close to Andasibe National Park, and there's hiking circuits and night walks. They have a frog terrarium exhibit and tree nurseries. You can visit reforestation areas, and it's a great place to visit, and it's also community run, so that's great. And also in Ranomafana, where Laurenne was speaking about just now, Central Val Bio is run by Dr. Patricia Wright, and she was integral in starting this Ranomafana National Park back in the 90s. And so they've now actually built this large research station, which you can get a tour of and learn about their work that they're doing in the park. And so you just have to contact them or ask your tour operator to see if you can arrange a visit to the research station and learn more about their work while you're there. And there's always Ranomafana, or Central Bio in Ranomafana has a great place. It's because a lot of researchers stay there to do their work, so you never know who you're going to be able to see when you're visiting. So you might have somebody who's specializing on a certain lemur, or they might be, you know, studying the frogs in the park or whatever. You know, you don't really know what you're gonna who's going to be there when you're visiting, but a lot of people do research there, so it's a really great opportunity. And then Kianjavatu is 2 LCN members work in Kianjavatu, Madagascar Biodiversity Partnership and Conservation Fusion. So this is actually a region I visited a few years ago, and it's 2 hours east of Ranomafana. So you can visit. Madagascar Biodiversity Partnership has a number of reforestation nurseries in the area that are run by local people, and they are visiting. The MBP is developing tourism in the area, and so you can, you should get in touch with them or ask your tour operator to talk to them if you want to visit some of their work. It's really inspiring, and Conservation Fusion works with the local schools there, and Madagascar Biodiversity Partnership works in more scientific research areas, and they are doing a lot of reforestation, connecting some forest corridors in the area. So it's just a super beautiful place to visit, and you can fairly easily see actually black and white rough lemurs and bamboo lemurs. I actually went on a night walk with them to visit Ayas, which was very memorable because they have tracking device collars on the eyes, and but you're walking off of trail at night up a mountain to go see some eyes looking for the tracking collar up in the tree. So that was very interesting. It was, you know, it's pitch black at like, you know, 11 o'clock at night trying to find an eye in a tree. So that was super fun. And then another place you can visit if you're in Masoala, which is near Masoala National Park that Tanjona was talking about. So this is Simpona Eco Lodge. It's the first lodge, I think, in Makura National Park, which is a new national park that was it was founded, I think, just a few years ago. And Wildlife Conservation Society has built this lodge in Makura, and so they have 2 bungalows and 2 tent platforms, and you can hike around to see the silky sifakas, which are extremely rare, and also red ruff lemurs. And then also I would just say to visit local reserves whenever you can to find out. So a couple, I guess it was 2019 when I was in Madagascar, I was up in the Marojejy area in Sambaba, and the Lemur Conservation Foundation works with local people in the area, and there's 2 small reserves that they support, which are very inspiring. Jackson's Reserve. Jackson is a guide for Marojejy, and he started on his family land. He started procuring more land in around Marojejy National Park in his village, and he does some reforestation there. And then he also, when I was there, I saw this beautiful white frog, and there's some vanilla, and it's just a beautiful views too. And then Desiree Rabari, in Antanatiembo Reserve near Andapa, is in the same general area. It's about, I think, an hour or 2 from Marojejy, and that's pictured on the top photo here. So he's also a local guide, but he has actually won a lot of awards, and his work is really great protecting land in that area. And you can see northern bamboo lemurs there. And I saw a literally tiny chameleon that was, you know, about an inch long, but really inspiring to see local work here. And that's it. So there's lots of different ways you can support conservation, but if you want to just, you know, witness the work that's being done, then those are some ideas. So it looks like we've answered all of our questions in the chat. So thank you, Brett and others for answering those. And thank you to everybody.
There was a really good question about how the pandemic has affected ecotourism and the behavior within the lemurs. And I think that's something that people would like to know. So I don't know if somebody has anything to say.
Yeah, so I think the question was if, you know, in this time when tourists haven't been allowed to visit Madagascar, have any of you noticed a change in behavior of the lemurs in the parks during this time?
Well, I think none of us have been in the parks either to see if there's any change. And I think it's probably a question best answered by a scientist if we're talking about change in behavior. I don't feel qualified to answer the question.
Yeah.
But Jonah's answer was interesting too. I mean, there's definitely, not in terms of behavior, but in terms of the impact on the animals, there's definitely more hunting. You know, poverty caused by this is driving people to behavior that they wouldn't normally have. So there's more hunting and there's more impact definitely on all of the wildlife. Very sad.
Yeah,
just to emphasize what Greg just said, last 5th September, that was the date that the national parks of Madagascar were opened after the lockdown 8 months. And I have been part of the delegations to visit the first time the parks. And to be honest, guys, the parks were very, especially Andasibe, very calm. The nature very clean, and the animals, they were very happy. Of course, good for the nature, as I wrote down, but not good for the local economy, because like Andasibe receives a lot of tourists every year, and this time there were no tourists at all. So the local people needed money, and so they started to return back to the resources by cutting and by hunting. So I think part of the way to save the nature, part of that is the lemur, is just to open the tourism industry, so people can get business out of that, and people will have as well activity instead of to go back to the forests. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, COVID has really affected the travel industry around the world, and in Madagascar, a lot of people really rely on tourists for income, and so it's definitely, I mean, I'm hoping that Madagascar opens up soon so we can come back. There was a question earlier about, I know Brett answered it a little bit in the chat, but about ensuring that your tour operator is environmentally friendly. I don't know if other people have thoughts. I mean, for me, I've been to Madagascar 3 times. First time was totally as a tourist, and the other times through LCN, but also still as a tourist. And I think that from my perspective, it's just about communicating with your tour operator. If you say, if you want, you know, I don't want to visit hotels that have pet lemurs, or whatever it is that is your preference, just communicate that. And I think that the tour operators they want to make you happy, make the customer happy. So just let people know.
I actually made a note for myself to comment about this very subject, and I'd just like to say to people who want to visit Madagascar and are concerned about those things, do not be afraid to ask your operator directly, what are your green and social credentials? What do you do? What does your agency do to contribute to the environment? And I'm not plugging my own agency, but just as a point of interest, we produce a document that we try to explain to people the reality that some hotels keep animals in captivity. And these are some of the most popular hotels in the country. So we give people the opportunity to say to us from day one, we don't want to go to those sort of places, and then we'll avoid them. And I think a lot of agencies will, any good agency will do that if the client asks.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, we don't actually offer hotels that, you know, we've stopped offering hotels that decide that they're going to have a little zoo next to them because they're going for a different type of tourist, which isn't our tourist. You know, all of our tourists are sort of into giving into the country, you know, not just sort of taking from it. And so I think we don't offer
I know Jonah's trying to answer this question as well, but I mean, some of the most popular destinations in the country are Lemurs Island in Andasibe at the Vakuna Hotel and the Palmarium Hotel on the Pangalan Canal, both of which keep, you know, wild caught lemurs captive for the entertainment of tourists. Now, these two destinations are some of the most popular destinations in the country. Try to get a room in the Palmarium in July. You know, it's impossible. They're full all the time, as is Vakuna. So a lot of people want this experience because a lot of people don't have enough time, or they just want a guaranteed lemur fix. And that's why I was trying to say in my opening of my presentation, we need to encourage community-based tourism activities so that local people are able to earn an income from showing their wildlife to tourists instead of captive animals in hotels.
To add to what Laurenne and Brett said, of course, we don't have time to talk one by one of the tour company, but as I am the head of the tour operator association called Top Madagascar, so you guys, of course, the tour operators present here are one of the best tour operators. So go ahead, you can go with Dadamanga, with Asisten, with a pioneer of Laurenne, but to help you, you can also visit our website called Top Madagascar, and the members of this association, they are already aware of how to say the nature conservations, especially about the lemurs. And what I can say for now is during this lockdown period, we didn't stop to train our members on how to improve your products in terms of nature conservations, involving the local peoples on your products, because the human being is the first predator of the nature. Part of that is the lemur. So if you value the human being, the people, for sure, everyone can protect the nature, the habitats, and part of that will be the lemurs. And we will see how we'll manage when the frontiers will open. But I can say the members of tour operators professional of Top that I'm leading are ready to receive you guys to visit again Madagascar. And thanks for the Lemurs Conservation Network to do such a program, because it will help and remind us that we need to protect our natural capital. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Final, just quick comment on this subject. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the ITM was cancelled this year. But you know, we were in communication with you. I think Lynne, if I remember, and Mani, and we were going to involve Sehenu, and we were going to do quite a big presentation on this subject at the International Tourism Fair in Madagascar, which should have been held in June. Top was involved. We had the approval of the National Tourism Office to raise this subject and bring the Minister of Tourism and the Minister of the Environment and sit them all down for a presentation about this very subject. But unfortunately, due to COVID, it didn't happen. Fingers crossed for next year. Laurenne, we'd love to work with you guys too. Please, let's all communicate more.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Great. Thank you all so much. Does anybody have any last final words? Okay.
With the blabbermouth, I do have a final word.
Okay.
Well, this is about tourism as well as about lemurs at this talk today. So I just wanted to let people know, if you're thinking about coming to Madagascar, all of these wonderful places that we've talked about, nearly all of them have a very wide variety of accommodation styles. So, you know, we didn't talk about specific places to stay much in this whole presentation. Andasibe has wonderful places from simple thatched bungalows to luxurious, air-conditioned, beautiful hotels. Isalo the same, from, you know, extraordinary places like Rock Lodge to simple little bungalows. All of these places, so talk to your agency about the sort of holiday that you want. You can get just about anything now to the highest of standards all over Madagascar, just about.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think, you know, there is, you know, before I first visited Madagascar in 2012, it was just, you know, when I was looking things up, it seemed like, oh, there's not a lot. You have to get used to the idea that it's not going to be great accommodations. But I think that when I went, I found that that's not, you know, there was really luxury options, and it's just about how much money you want to spend. So if you want to go basic, then you can. If you want like really luxury accommodations, like that's totally there too. So that's a good
to the extreme of Miavana in the far north east, which is $2,500 a night, and you can only get there by helicopter. It's to that extreme now. We've got it all in Madagascar now. It's not like the olden days.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you all so much, and thanks everybody for joining from Facebook Live and Zoom. So everybody, I hope you're all dreaming about your next trip to Madagascar or planning your first trip. And if you have any questions, be sure to get in touch with any of our tour operators here. And thank you all. So, and happy World Lemur Day tomorrow and World Lemur Festival's exciting. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy World Lemur Day, everyone.
World Lemur Day.
Happy World Lemur Day. Thank you.